Hello. Hello everyone. Welcome back. I hope everyone is doing great. My name is Raviteja. Let's solve today's Leetcode problem 3567 minimum absolute difference in sliding submatrix. You are given m by n integer matrix grid and an integer k. For every contiguous k by k submatrix of grid, compute the minimum absolute difference between any two distinct values within the submatrix. Return a 2D array answer of size m minus k plus 1 and n minus k plus 1, where answer of ij is the minimum absolute difference in the submatrix whose top left corner is I comma j in the grid. Note that if all the elements in the submatrix have the same value, return 0. A submatrix x1 y1 x2 y2 is a matrix that is formed by choosing all the cells in the matrix where this particular condition holds true. Okay, let's also look at the constraint. As you can see, the constraints are pretty small. We can straight away go ahead and implement the brute force approach. Okay, now let's say we have identified a submatrix of this particular size, submatrix of k by k. Now how do we get the minimum absolute difference of all the distinct values? Okay, in order to get the minimum absolute difference, we will be sorting all the elements in the k by k grid. Okay, and then we'll get the difference of adjacent elements. Okay, this way we can get the minimum absolute difference. Okay, so let me show you the code. Okay, m is basically the grid length, the number of rows I have, and n is basically the number of columns I have in the grid. And they've also given that the answer should contain this particular sizes. Now I'm just iterating through the answers for each row and column, and then I'm just forming a grid of size k by k for a given I and j. Now that this particular grid is formed and I'm taking all the elements from the grid into a list so that I can sort them. Okay, once the list is sorted, I will check whether the two adjacent elements are equal or not. If those are not equal, that means I have two distinct elements whose difference needs to be calculated, and then I'm calculating the absolute difference of those two adjacent elements, and then I'm trying to minimize it with the so far difference I have. Okay, if the current is equal to the max value, that means we have to return 0, or we have to take the current value. If we have only one element in the submatrix, in that case this current will still remain as an integer dot max value. In that case we have to take 0. Okay, that if you look at the one of the test cases, if you see this particular test case, k is equal to 1, that means we only have a submatrix of 1 by 1, so we won't be having, in order to take a difference we should have at least two elements, right? Since we have only one element, the difference in this case would be the max value itself, so in that case we have to take 0. Okay, and then my answer will contain all the differences with all the submatrix ka differences. Okay, if you submit this problem, all the test cases will be passed and it will be a pretty efficient solution as well. Okay, if you like the explanation, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share your valuable feedback in the comment section. I've also started dynamic programming series. Feel free to check it out. Thank you.